Welcome to FoundHer Rising, the podcast for women founders in wellness coaching and consulting who are ready to build businesses that create freedom, impact, and income. I'm your host, Christine Huckala, business coach, former psychotherapist, and mentor to women scaling service-based businesses. Today, I'm joined by Jordana Bergman, founder and clinical director of Eden Wellness Psychotherapy and former litigator. She helps high-achieving individuals and couples manage burnout, anxiety, perfectionism, and relationship strain. Jordana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine, for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. When we first met, I was just really inspired by your background and what you're building in your business, and I'm stoked for you to share that with our listeners. I mentioned in the intro, former litigator. Tell us a little bit about your journey, your past life career, and how you made that transition into private practice.
Yeah. So it's not common, I would say. There's just a handful of us that I know of.
You might be the only former lawyer turned therapist that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. So if you would have talked to my 8-year-old self and had said, one day you're going to be a therapist, I would have been like, yeah, what, right? Like I would have laughed at you.
You wouldn't have believed me.
I would never believe that because since I was very young, I was really set on becoming a lawyer. It was something that I was passionate about. I loved the justice. I loved helping people, like that kind of concept. And it was like a singular journey, right? So went to law school in Toronto at Osgoode Hall, graduated, got a great job on Bay Street in a big Bay Street law firm in the litigation department. And, it was fantastic for all intents and purposes. It was sort of the, quintessential pinnacle of like success in terms of achievement in that realm.
Your 8-year-old self that, he would have jumped for joy and said, of course, that's what I'm going to do.
She was like, you did it, right? And, so fast forward in time, life circumstances shifted and changed. And actually it was something that I never anticipated that would sort of lead me down this path, which was at the time I had 2 little kids. So I was a junior associate with 2 little children and I was pregnant and I was going on maternity leave and I went on maternity leave. And then 1 month after my 3rd child was born. So I had a 1-month-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 4.5-year-old.
Holy gosh. Wow.
It was a lot. I slipped on ice and I cracked my back in 3 places.
Oh, Jordana. Oh my gosh.
So it was a real calling to me. It was like, if you aren't going to slow down and sort of reevaluate life and choices that you make, then the universe is going to slow you down.
Stop you. Wow.
Yeah.
I imagine life as you knew it, was forever shifted at that point.
It really was. I mean, what I thought was going to be my maternity leave turned into my rehabilitation period. And then when the time came that I was, physically ready to go back to work with the 3 little kids now, I really had to think long and hard about lifestyle, about choices, about sacrifices, about time, about values, right? What values are going to drive my decision making. And
I'm just curious, was there kind of a fear there that if you went back to work that you'd kind of fall back into the same patterns or mindset that, I don't know, not that led to your accident, but that just something say more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something sort of inherent in the profession, right? Because there's the expectation of very, very long hours, intense work, demanding clients, and these inherent elements of it are not changing, right? They're fixed. So
you couldn't just go back and find a better work-life balance within that field.
Right. I couldn't reconfigure the environment. And I even, contemplated different environments, but it's a little bit more inherent in the profession as opposed to, some environments are obviously harder than others. And so, that thought did cross my mind. Do I shift environments and then will it change? But inherent in the profession are those demands and expectations. And at the time, I did not want to fall back into that world of pressure,
Yeah, that's
that
really
world of
commendable.
external. Yeah.
I can only imagine how hard that decision must have been. Like, even though you knew it was right for you and your family, I can imagine it was pretty daunting.
It was really brutal. It took me down a really, I would say, dark path, and what I often refer to as professional purgatory, because you're kind of in this place where you're like, well, what once really, defined a significant part of my identity sort of was now
For your whole
gone.
life.
Yeah. And everything that I worked towards in that realm was now sort of, wrapped up indefinitely. And what was I going to do? And work was meaningful to me always. And being able to contribute to society is meaningful to me. And being able to role model certain things around, the role of women and work and that whole relationship for my children was meaningful as well. So there were so many elements that, I like stepped into the abyss really around.
I mean, just hearing you talk about what was important to you as you considered a career shift. It's obvious to me, I mean, now knowing where you ended up, like why the field of therapy, and specifically being in private practice would draw you. But how did you land on that conclusion? And what other things did you consider along the way?
So I never, ever thought I would land in another profession. Like I really never thought about that. I never thought that I'd go back to school. I never thought that I'd retrain in anything. But it was really, I would say, that slowing down and listening to the universe that led me to where I am. So, fast forward a couple years. So now I'm off work a couple year. In the interim, I'd had a fourth child because as the ambitious person, four children, the ambitious person that I am and the high achiever mindset translates also into this realm as well.
Wow.
So, 4 children in under 7 years, 6.5 years.
Oh my
and my youngest, so my baby, who's not a baby anymore, but my baby was 3. And he was about to enter into nursery school. And I got a phone call from somebody at the law school that I attended, but also did some teaching at Osgood, around their career services. And there was a need at the time to fill a contract for career counseling.
Oh, interesting.
And so I decided to take that contract, and it was a short-term contract. It was only supposed to be 3 months. And it was really, one-on-one engagement with law students around resume building, cover letter writing, interview skills, networking, thinking about like career possibilities, right? Making sure there's alignment. And I loved it.
Wow.
It was so fabulous to work in that capacity, like individually one-on-one with the law students. And I recognized in that experience, I'm like, I need to expand my repertoire here. I need to expand my skill set. I need to expand my knowledge. And I want to move into the space of mental health for lawyers, actually, was the initial thought.
I love this so much. It's, as I hear you tell the story, I imagine that it could almost land with some folks like as though this fell into your lap. Like, of course, like it was just, the universe just gifted it to you. And I also imagine that there were some pretty pivotal moments where you had to make a decision around that, right? Like the position seemed to come fortuitously, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're a therapist. What were some of the bigger turning points for you from that point to actually becoming a therapist and opening your own private practice?
So there were some huge decisions to be made and also sacrifices, right? So, first and foremost, I had to decide, where am I going to train? What level of education am I going to get? What kind of credentialing do I want to get? I decided that I wanted to get a master's degree. I'm, quite an academic person. Academia matters to me. And so I decided to go down that route. Now, that wasn't a smooth sailing route because the program that I really wanted to get into rejected me. And that was like a big ego blow because I was like, oh, wow, like I'm being rejected like at this point, and I kind of had to dig deep inside and do work and say like, how important was this to you, Jordana? Like how much do you want to do this? And if it is, pick up again and try again.
Wow.
And so I did that. That's exactly what I did. And I ended up in a program that was not necessarily that sort of first choice, but again, I believe that things turn the way that they're really meant to. And it unfolded to be something that really worked in alignment with my life, with my children, with my commitments. And I was able to integrate that into my world. Yeah. And so it took me almost 3 years and back to school. So put back on, the student hat, fast forward in time, my kids are, not like babies anymore. And they're very active and busy. And there I am dragging my books and my laptop to every arena, every practice, wow. Because I had this commitment. I had this goal. Yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, of course, the financial load, right? Like to go back to school, it's not inexpensive.
Yeah. Already having 4 kids, being off work for several years, I can imagine that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a big sacrifice. And, I ended up after a couple of years, I ended up basically stopping to work and just focusing on school so that I could really focus on the training. And it was a huge sacrifice, but there was always that like dream, right? That vision, that goal in mind.
The new dream.
The new dream that really was like percolating and being like built and created as I went along here.
And did you always know that you were going to go straight into private practice, or what was the plan while you were in school about what you would do once you graduated?
So the plan was to always go into private practice. Yeah. Initially, I landed softly and I worked for a couple practices so I could, get some experience, get my feet wet.
Yeah. I imagine both in the world of therapy as well as in the world of running a private practice.
Exactly. Eventually, I decided to open up my own practice, which I think was sort of the ultimate goal that I had ended up creating for myself. And the reasons around that were really about a couple things, right? One is flexibility. So to be able to build a career that was based on flexibility, meaning if my kids have something going on at school and I want to go to it, I can build my schedule around it. If there's a tournament, I can build my time around it. Everything was really built around my life. So that was like the first really
number one appeal. Number one of many service providers of building your own business.
Number 2 was this idea also, like, and alongside of that was like integration, right? How can I integrate this into my world in a way that works smoothly, that it's not the balance, like this is work and this is life, but it's all kind of together as one. Yeah. So that was really a second piece. And then the third piece was the vision, which was, if I go into my own practice and if I choose to eventually move into growing a business, it's because I have a very strong why. Like there is a very strong motivator. And for some people, the why is like, I want to make money, right? And of course, I understand that the realities of life, and that's very, very important. But to me, that's one element of like decision making around this. Rather, the why was like, how can you make your mark? How can you contribute? How can you influence and impact people in society in a really meaningful way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is
that? I love that perspective. And I will share, because I think what you've just said touches a lot of listeners, is I've worked with female service providers for well over a decade, nearly 2 at this point. And I've personally never met a female service provider in health and wellness, coaching and consulting or otherwise, who was driven exclusively by money. And why I think that's important to name is one, because most of us don't get into these industries because we're money driven. There's a lot of other careers we can do out there that earn a lot more money, a lot more easily than being a service provider. Yeah. And, we like to your point, we get into it because we're passionate about serving, about being of service, of being leaving our mark and helping. And the money aspect for almost all of us is important. Right? The business isn't sustainable if we can't earn enough, to maintain our lifestyle.
That's right, which is like the push-pull between it all, right? And it's also the element of all of this that for me is my edge of growth, right? It's like, you want to meaningfully like impact, you want to contribute, you want to touch people, you want to be touched by people. But yet at the end of the day, right? Like it is a business. It needs to operate. It needs to create revenue. The wheels need to turn. And, putting on that hat was entirely new to me.
I can imagine. It's entirely new to most service providers who own their own business. Say a little bit about, like, let's say that first 12 to 18 months in private practice. What went smoothly and easily? What went as expected and as hoped? And what were perhaps some of the bigger challenges or things that you didn't anticipate going into private practice?
Yeah. So I would say for the first year or so, the wheels just kind of started to turn organically. Like there really wasn't much systemization or real planning. It was kind of like, like just start, right? Like here are the like essentials and go, right? Yeah. And go from there. There wasn't any networking. There wasn't any marketing. There really wasn't anything that I really put into it. How did you get your
first clients? Like how did that happen for you?
I mean, I am quite like lucky in the sense that because I come at this as a second career professional and because I have that, lived experience and sort of built-in credibility around that, people through word of mouth organically find me, right? Yeah. So my practice was actually full from the beginning.
That's fantastic.
Which is a blessing. And I would also say not usual. Right? For new providers.
I had the same experience for similar reasons as you, but so important to mention that I'd say for 99.8% of service providers out there, that's not to be expected. It does take several months, if not a year or more, to get a full practice. But the fact that you did have that out of the gate speaks not only to your network, your reputation, how well connected you were, but the steps that you took to leverage that and let people know that you're here, that your doors are open.
Yeah. And they were quite minimal in the beginning. But, as let's say the year, 18 months sort of progressed, I then kind of saw the need, okay, well, if my personal roster is full, but people are coming in to want to work with me or work with Eden Wellness, then I need to hire an associate. Right?
Oh my gosh. So that happened pretty organically and pretty quickly for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hired a wonderful associate and she's been with me for almost 3 years now. Wow. And, initially it was like some of the spillover. Okay. And then, slowly, it's like some of the networking around the fact that I have an associate and, some of the advertising and things like that to kind of fill in the gaps. Right. And then, fast forward in time, about 2025, I kind of made a real pivotal decision. I said, I can continue down this path or I can ramp it up. And what ramping it up looks like is taking it from more like an individual / sort of individual like practice into more that like group practice experience.
Bringing on more clinicians, having more spots available to serve more people who are wanting to support.
That's right. So I really took the time to think about what is my actual niche? Who am I actually servicing and why? What is the red thread that connects all of the clients that I see? Yeah. And how do I communicate that in a way that people connect with in language that makes sense to people, right? And so I really landed on this niche population of the high achiever. And how I define that is not from, it's more from a mindset as opposed to an actual like a demographic. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's a mindset. So you could be, I don't know, CEO of a bank. You could be a stay-at-home mom, but you could still both identify with this mindset, right? Which is generally highly functional, highly ambitious, driven, right?
You know a thing or two about this niche, Jordana.
I know. It's a niche that I can relate to.
Yes.
And the reason why that's really important, Christine, because as a therapist myself, is I do not practice from any therapeutic modality that I have not experienced as a client.
That's great. So great.
And it's kind of the same thing around the people that I work with. Like there needs to be this like relatability and understanding for me to be able to like establish really that foundational connection. So I'm not one that will work, let's say, in an area or field that's like completely foreign to me, because I really want to try to be able to understand that person's world. And so that connection matters to me. That's the way that I practice.
I imagine that's what makes you incredibly good at what you do, is you stay focused on the people that you're truly lit up to serve, that you have not only the lived experience, but the skills. And I'm curious, how does that translate to building a group practice? Like, what mindset do you take when interviewing, hiring, training, the people that work for Eden Wellness?
So it's a great question, right? Because it makes that piece challenging to necessarily find, right?
More to think about.
Yes, exactly. So, typically when I am hiring and I have added on a couple new clinicians, is I'm either looking for a second career therapist. So somebody who also has had significant professional experience or lived experience, it could be as well, that they can really connect with and leverage with the clients. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is sometimes that may look like a mature person, okay, but not always necessarily. Okay, so that's sort of something in the back of my mind. And then I'm looking for people that are really trained in a integrative manner. So they're not, let's say, just like specialists in one type of therapy, but they rather have this more integrative is the best word to describe it.
Like a more eclectic approach, and can draw from various treatment modalities based on the need of the client.
Exactly. And so the idea of like meeting the client where they're at, but being able to have the tools and the toolkit to help them expand. So that's also sort of what I'm looking for when I bring on somebody.
I love that. Before we keep going, I want to say something. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh, I'm in that season right now, I'd love to talk to you. FoundHer Rising isn't about polished success stories. It's about real growth. The hiring decisions, the revenue plateaus, the identity shifts that happen when your business starts stretching you. If you're building something meaningful in wellness, coaching, or consulting, and you're willing to have an honest conversation about what scaling actually looks like, apply to be a guest. The link's in the show notes. I'd love to meet you. Okay, back to the episode. A few of the pieces, Jordana, that stand out. I mean, one is just the thought and intention that you've put behind, pretty much every step of your own journey. But as well as the people you serve, the way that you show up, there are some pieces here that it makes sense to me why you were so successful and why you continue to be successful so quickly, because of the clarity and intention you have behind your niche and the service you provide. As also a new therapist and a new business owner, almost simultaneously, what were some of the things on the business end that were perhaps unexpected or not as easy to navigate for you?
So it's so interesting you asked me this question, because I really still feel like I'm in the trenches of all of those pieces.
That's not uncommon.
And, so much of this is new to me. So I am learning along the way, right? So I'm learning about like, what is effective marketing? What is effective marketing in this industry? What are the best ways to fill practices? How do you network? Like all of these pieces. And the thing is that you can't do it all alone, right? Like it's, between holding a full practice, and I teach also, I'm an adjunct faculty at Osgoode.
You still have 4 kids at home.
Still have 4 kids at home, right? Actually, one's in university. So I got 3 kids and one in university that will email me or message me like, can you edit my essay in like 1 hour? That like that. But, so I came to sort of this place where I'm like, I can't manage all the pieces alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that the hardest, at least for me, has been being able to choose what I'm going to let go of, mm-hmm. and then choose the right service providers to trust, to provide the level of quality and care that I, perhaps maybe in a little bit more of my high achieving perfectionistic mentality, really expect.
Yeah.
And the challenge has always been to me is like trying to navigate, like, well, if that doesn't always line up in that way, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do? Mm-hmm. And how do you dig deep for patience? And how do you dig deep for, giving people like a leeway, a leverage to be able to, like, let's say things are not operating exactly the way you want to, but like be able to communicate it and give it a chance to try again. And then sometimes making tough decisions around, mm-hmm. well, maybe I gotta, pivot or try something else.
Yeah. It's like you're already juggling a lot as a mom, right? As a business owner, as a clinician, right? And now as a leader and manager of a team. And it's a lot on a good day when things are going well. And then it can seem overwhelming and really stretch us to capacity and beyond when things aren't going well. If we have a team member who's struggling, mm-hmm. if we realize we've hired somebody who's not a fit, or that there's additional training that needs to happen.
That's right.
That can be really challenging for any business owner.
And also when it's like a small business, right? And then, a lot of this requires not just output of decision-making and time and leadership, but also money. Yes. And I think that there's a very practical reality around, how much can you commit to investing into mm-hmm. the growth mm-hmm. without necessarily knowing if you are going to get that return on your investment.
Right. Yeah, it can feel like a risk a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that and I see it as kind of a delicate dance or a balance between being of service and growing in our business in, shall we say, a values aligned way or mm-hmm. in integrity, which, is very important to all the women service providers that I speak with. And I would imagine lands well with most of the listeners as well, mm-hmm. between that and earning an income, right? And being able to profit off of our business in a way that lends itself to this business being sustainable, yes. that feeds us monetarily enough that we can have the freedom and flexibility to live the lifestyle we need to take care of ourselves, take care of our families, plan for mm-hmm. retirement, and continue to show up and be of service so that we can do this over and over year after year.
Absolutely.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned? And you mentioned earlier, it was one of the I think you said the edges of growth of balancing running a values-aligned business, being of service, and also growing a profitable, successful business. Yeah. What are some lessons you've learned around that?
So, since I would say mid-2025, as sort of I'm trying to pivot more into the group, right? And mm-hmm. the vision of this boutique clinic that I'm trying to grow, to maybe about 10 clinicians, hopefully, mm-hmm. at some point in time, I've really realized that I need to be highly organized and I need systems in place. Mm-hmm. So I need to be tracking quantitative data to be able to make then decisions around, mm-hmm. okay, so, if these are the numbers, what can I then realistically, take from this and use towards putting back into the business, towards growth. And then I spend a lot of time trying to, I'm not trying to throw spaghetti on the wall mm-hmm. and see what sticks. I'm really trying to create a bit of a top-down approach, right? So mm-hmm. for example, if let's say a goal would be to fill a clinician's roster, right? What are the best ways to do that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I create that bit of a structure. Okay. Mm-hmm. Based on that structure, then I will determine, right? Well, okay, so what is the budget that might get associated with this structure? Mm-hmm. And what can I actually commit to? And is it realistic and reasonable? Right. So that kind of process is sort of what I am getting comfortable going through and getting used to. So it's a lot of spreadsheets, which I don't like to do. Not good at that. Like, all that kind of technical sort of piece, I really don't feel comfortable with. So I'm trying to learn that. A real sort of push towards systemization and tracking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you mentioned this because I think it's something that is not spoken about enough for service providers. It's an aspect of business that I think a lot of us can get away with in the early days, especially if our service is one-on-one. There's quite a bit of winging it that happens and growing organically, and everyone's story is different. Although once our business gets a bit bigger, we have more than one offer, we bring on other clinicians or service providers, we start to have a team, it becomes more complex. And one of the mistakes, and I'll willingly call it a mistake, that I see many service providers making is continuing to make financial and logistical decisions based off their emotions and intuition. And that can work, it doesn't always, can work in the early days, at the beginning of growing a business. Sounds like you've also learned that it does not work when the business is bigger. Yeah. And in fact, when we empower ourselves with, as you're saying, like the data, the metrics, what are the numbers coming into the business? If I invest this, what's the potential return on that investment? Really having those numbers at hand, for me, takes the emotion out of it and allows us to make decisions more logically that are ultimately in the best interest of not just our business, but ourselves and our clients as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and another piece around this is and we sort of touched upon it very briefly, but it's also one's relationship towards risk, right?
Yes.
How risk averse are you? As a lawyer, I tend to be very risk averse, right? Like my head is always trained around well, what's the worst case possibility here, right? Like, what am I like? Yeah. And that's maybe serves that industry, but that's not always great when it's around, for example, taking a bit of a leap that you might need to do, in terms of decision making and action around growth. Right. Yes, because at the end of the day, I don't think there's there's never anything that you can really do that will guarantee you do this and then therefore you will get that. Right.
There's high probabilities, but very rarely any guarantees.
That's right. And so, how comfortable are you with that? And how willing are you to kind of, and I use this word a lot in therapy, experiment? Yeah. Right. Yeah. But not experiment haphazardly, like you said.
Exactly. Right? And I love that you brought this up. What I find very interesting, because I'm a big fan of the spreadsheet. It doesn't give me the X factor anymore. I track finances. I track the metrics in my business, and I teach all of my clients to do that. And what I have found, I'm the opposite of you. I'm naturally not risk averse. I'm more naturally a risk taker. However, having the metrics and the data has actually reduced those desires and the willingness to take these unnecessary risks because I have the numbers. So for me, it's kind of done the opposite. It's reined me in a little bit in a healthy way. And what I find for my clients, and it sounds like this might be your experience, is that if we happen to be on the other end of the spectrum, having the data, right, allows us to make decisions that otherwise might have felt risky, but actually feel a little less risky because we have the numbers in front of us.
That's right. So I think it all comes back down to that, have the data, have the numbers, do the tracking, and then you're not doing things blindly, right?
It's not about taking risks or not. It's about making informed decisions and having high probability of the outcome.
Exactly.
Jordana, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
What's next? Where do you see Eden Wellness going in the coming years? What are you building?
Oh, gosh. That is a great question. So, the vision is like this boutique clinic, right? So this real sort of customized service around the high achiever and their needs. I don't envision it being probably greater than maybe 10 max, because I like that sort of white gloved kind of, I see you, I feel you, I sort of hold you experience, as opposed to one of those much larger clinics that can feel a little bit more factory driven or less intimate in that sense.
Yeah, and it's you can do that with your clients as well as your clinicians when you stay around.
Exactly. And then I can also be really involved in the pulse of the work, right? I would love to expand, service offerings at some point in time. I would love to be able to create programs, create groups. I mean, I think that there is so much potential to be able to provide. It is really just the time and the opportunity, and creating it. So, to me, it's like one step at a time. For my personal work, like I envision myself continuing to see clients, but maybe in a lesser capacity. So probably reduce my client load, because the other thing that I do that I really, really enjoy is I do speaking engagements. So I do workshops and trainings. I teach. And I love that element as well. And so I hope that one point in time, I can expand that, because I'll have a little bit more time to do more of that work, while still holding on to clinical work, because it really matters to me. Like at heart, I'm a clinician. And then oversee this boutique operation from a place where it's like a real involvement. It's like I kind of like, I say this business is like my fifth child. It's kind of like a family kind of feeling.
And your sixth and seventh and eighth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, this is so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your experience, these nuggets of wisdom. I'm so excited for you and what you're building, and all the people whose lives you're going to touch, both your clinicians and clients. If folks are listening and they want to learn more about you and what you do, where you're at, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for those very kind words. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Yeah. It's my pleasure.
So the best place to find me is on the website. So it's www.edenwellness.ca. All the information is up there. All the contact information is up there. We're really responsive and timely in terms of replying to people. And so absolutely pop me an email. I will get back to you. I'm more than happy to connect to anybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jordana. Thank you, listener, for tuning in to FoundHer Rising. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, share it with another founder, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or learn more at hucklehorizons.com. Until next time, keep rising and keep building the business that gives you freedom to live, lead, and create on your terms.